Most people think that their best running years are behind you once you turn 50. They think it's time to slow down, run less, or just save your knees. But what if I told you that for today's guest, age 50 wasn't the finish line, it was actually the starting line? I'm excited to introduce you to our newest coach to the Spark Healthy Runner team, who didn't just start jogging when she turned 50. She's completed 22 marathons, including the original 6 world major marathons. Colleen Masse knows firsthand that running does not have to end when life gets busy. As a full-time attorney, board member of the Hartford Track Club, and mother of 2 adult sons, she understands the realities of balancing career, family, and training. She went from struggling with empty nest and thinking she hated racing to finding absolute joy and purpose in every mile. And the best part, she did it while staying healthy. Today, we're going to break down exactly how she built that durability, how she trains differently now than in her 30s, and her advice for you if you want to run strong well into your 40s, 50s, and beyond. Welcome to the show, Colleen. I am super excited for our Healthy Runner community to meet you and be inspired by your later in life running journey, as well as pick your brain on really how you did it all.
Thanks, Duane. So happy to be here. Really excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited for everyone to meet you. This has been, I guess, probably maybe a year in the making, or it feels like many months since we have gotten to know each other and had some great messages and great chats before. And I would just love for you to take us back to 49 years old. Like, what was going through your mind during that empty nest transition, and what made you really decide that turning 50 was going to be the starting line instead of slowing down?
Yeah, so a lot of it, some of it was planful, but some of it kind of just happened. So, as I was 49, which was 2019, so you know where some of the story's going already by the year. My younger son was graduating from high school. He was going to be head off to college. And I've been a lifelong runner. I ran in high school, I ran in college, and I always ran, like a normal person, right? 3 to 5 miles once in a while. And then I, I kind of was thinking, I was so involved in my kids' lives. I mean, to the point where I homeschooled one year and all of that, that when my second son was going to college, I knew that I was going to need to make a pivot, or else I was really going to be lost. So I did a lot of work on my career front as well. Did a lot of coffees and meeting with people about, kind of beefing my career up. But then I knew I was going to have time as well, and I knew that I was going to have to be finding things to do with that. So I lived near the Fleet Feet in West Hartford, which is super lucky, very convenient for me, and I had done a lot of the groups over the years just to stay motivated. I never did any of the races, but I did a lot of the groups over the years. And I had done a 10K group. And I thought, there's a really nice loop I like to do that's 5 miles. And I said, I'll do the 10K loop because I really want to be able to do that comfortably again. And one day I was out with someone and he was going 9. And I said, oh, that's farther than I've gone in, 20 something years. And he said, oh, you're a strong runner. Come with me. And I ran the 9 with him. And I started thinking like, oh, maybe this can go somewhere. So I made a plan for my 50th birthday to do a destination half marathon. And I was going to go to Martha's Vineyard, which is my favorite place, and do a half marathon. And I just kind of started training for that with one of the Fleet Feet groups. And they were all training for a marathon. I was just showing up for half the runs. And then, of course, the world closed in March. So everything changed. And because I had made these connections and I was running a half marathon distance comfortably at that point, I got sucked into the marathon culture. and that was and that was
It
and that
sucked
was
you in.
that was it.
And you've never looked back since.
I've been really, I always say my life took a weird, crazy turn. But yeah, it was a whole shift in really everything. Our vacations changed, and the clothes I bought changed, and what we did on the weekends changed. Everything changed in that COVID year, that 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like you were kind of, looking to kind of run a little bit longer, going through this kind of life transition. Your youngest heading off to college. My youngest will be doing that next year. And I know it's crazy how quickly time flies. And then, yeah, the world shut down. COVID happened. All we could do was run, right? It was like one of the safer things that we could do is just like run outside and not do anything indoors with other people. And you kind of started training for this half, and then started training for the full. And yeah, I'm kind of curious, just like you mentioning you ran in high school, you ran in college. I never did. But back then, I remember you telling me you didn't love racing. Like, what was different about how you approached running at 50, let's say, compared to running in your 20s?
Yeah, I mean, I loved running, right? Running always, and people say to me, "How do you like running?" I'm like, "What do you mean, how do you like running? What are children doing? What are puppies doing? Everybody's running. Running is fun, right? Running is fun." So I loved the running, and I loved the friends, and I loved, rocking out to some crazy 80s song that we would sing while we were out. And I loved all of that. But I had a really great coach. I'm not a particularly competitive person. And my coach would be really, I don't know how he did it back before the internet, but he would know, right? In a cross country meet, I don't know if people know how they're scored, but basically the top 5 runners from each team, whatever place you come in the race, that's how many points you get. And then they add up the team's points, and the team with the fewer points wins the meet. And so he would know what all the runners on the other team could do, and he would know what we all could do, and he would tell us what we had to do to win the meet, right? Colleen, you got to beat their number 3 girl today. And so there was no, I mean, it was very stressful, right? Like, and I remember thinking, like, oh, if I fell and broke my leg, I would not have to finish this race. So it was really, I mean, I loved all the other stuff, but the race days were not my favorite. And it felt like a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, and I did not thrive on it at all. So after college, I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do any more races. And I got a few friends would say, come do a local road race or something, but I really just did not race, but maybe twice between college and when I turned 50. No races. So it was a long time. I missed the shoe chips. I missed all of that technology. Like I missed all the little different things that had gone along the way with timing. I never did any of them because I just didn't race for all those years.
Yeah, I find that so common in a lot of collegiate runners, that I would either back in the day when I would treat and see in the clinic, and I would just see that once they graduated, it was like they didn't even run because they got like so burnt out from running, and or it was kind of like something that they had to do, right? Either to like maintain scholarship, or maybe in high school, they were pressured to like, do well. And then they were just like burned out by it. But it sounds like, and this might like speak to some of your later in life success, in that you had that time period where it sounds like you ran just for like the joy of running and just going out for 3 to 4 miles and just like clearing your head when your kids were younger, and just having like mom time, right? Where you had some time to yourself, to just enjoy the actual act of running without like any pressure of racing. Do you feel like in this kind of second half of life, in terms of like racing, there was so much pressure in your 20s? Did you bring any of that pressure to yourself when you started doing marathons in your 50s?
Not really. So I showed up, for marathon training again, kind of got talked into that. And I remember the first day marathon training at the Fleet Feet store, and we would all stand outside. And we were all supposed to introduce ourselves and say what our goal was. And when they got to me, I said, I don't have any goals. My goal was to get here today, right? That's my goal. And the same thing. I mean, even the first little marathon we ran during COVID, it was a virtual marathon. Like there were 100 of us out in Simsbury, running the Hartford Marathon. I think they brought us medals and stuff, but I didn't even have a watch that worked, right? So I said, all I can control is getting to the race. And then kind of whatever happens after that happens, right? I can get there on time. Like that I'm in charge of. And then whatever my body does after that, we'll see how it goes. So I didn't bring a lot of pressure to it. And I didn't even know what Boston qualifying meant. I didn't know what that concept was. So I just thought, you run a marathon, you live near Hartford, you do the Hartford Marathon. That's it. Like I didn't
Right.
realize there was this whole world. So there was no pressure to me because I didn't even understand it at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that you didn't have that pressure for yourself. And I do come across a lot of like newer runners in their 40s and 50s who are aware of what a Boston qualifying time is, and some people who create some like, I think, unrealistic expectations, especially earlier in their running journey where they're like, yeah, I want to qualify for Boston. And I'm all for like, let's set some big goals. But at the same time, it does take, a lot of work, and it takes a lot of growth in your running journey to be able to do that. And you've completed 22 marathons, all 6 like world majors, before Australia came into the mix here, after 50, and you've stayed like relatively healthy. And, what would you say you do differently now to build like durability compared to maybe what you would have done training, when you were younger, or training, in college?
Yeah. So it's funny because I was thinking about this and I think of myself as being very healthy, right? I think of myself as being super lucky, right? I'm super lucky about my health and all of this stuff. And I think a lot of it is, first of all, a lot of it is perspective, right? So when things go wrong and you're 50 years old, you've seen a lot of stuff go wrong in life by then, right? So when something goes wrong, you have a different perspective. I have kids, things go wrong with your kids, that's a big deal. Something goes wrong, I fall on my knee, not a big deal, right? So I think that's something that being an older runner, you have this perspective and you have a little bit more of an understanding of kind of your own priorities and where things fit in the world. But when I was thinking about being healthy, I was thinking to myself, well, I do have that IT band thing. I hurt my IT band in college, and it's been a recurring thing throughout my entire running life. Um, Curiously, and you as the PT will probably not think this is curious, but when I became the fittest I'd ever been in my 50s, the IT band went away. Right. And it was always bother me when I had come away from running for a little while and I'd come back. That's when the IT band hurt
Mm.
me. But when I was fit and my muscles were able to support that and I had the strength in my body to support the IT band, I didn't have as much issue. I have arthritis in both my big toes. I've been told I probably should like get them fused and stop running.
No.
I switch up my shoes, right? I do these things, right? I have asthma, which I, don't even think about, but I've, in and out of my asthma doctor all the time, making sure I have the right inhalers and the right medications. And then most recently, and this, and we'll talk more about this, I'm sure at a later date, a couple of months ago, was diagnosed with diabetes. And that's been the biggest thing to date. But that's a real health thing, right? So now I have to learn how to adapt to that. But I will say when something pops up, I don't try to run through it. I don't ignore it. Like I am very aware of my mortality. Like if something goes wrong when you're 50, it can go really wrong. So I remember I was out one day and my Achilles was bothering me a bit and I made an appointment to go to the PT and they ask on the questionnaire, right, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much does it hurt? And I said, 0. And they're like, well, why are you here? I'm like, because it's like a mob boss. It's like, hey, be too bad, Colleen, if something were to happen to your Achilles. It's talking to me. So I don't sit on anything. I address things right away because, again, I have that perspective of how things can go, right? And I don't want it to. It's all too important to me.
Right. Yeah. There's so much gold that you shared in that answer. Honestly, the first thing that I did hear from you is training now in your 50s versus when you were younger. It sounds like the more consistent you are in like smart training year round has actually kept the IT band issues at bay, as opposed to maybe in your 30s or 40s when you were more sporadic, right? And it wasn't as consistent with your training. So I think that's something for all the listeners to understand is it is easier to maintain this like base level of training and fitness that helps prevent you from getting running related injuries. And there are still runners that I come in contact with that kind of have that misconception of like, hey, I'm going to train for this big goal, this marathon, and I'm going to train for 6 months. And then I'm going to take 3 months off, or I'm going to take 4 months off for running. And then I'm going to do it again. And yeah, that's not necessarily the best for the body because it takes a while to gain that fitness back again. And then if you try to take your training to the next level and you do harder run plan, you do harder speed sessions, you try to increase your pace, then the body starts to fight back like the IT band and says like, hey, this is like way too much load that I'm ready for. So it sounds like you did a really good job at kind of maintaining a healthy level of training and fitness for your body, that it was able to stay healthy without breaking down, even though you were like logging all those miles, like 22 marathons in essentially like a 5-year period. Is that correct? Like that's
Yeah.
a
So
lot.
the first live one was right before I turned 51 because things started to open up. I did Providence in May of 2021. So it'll be 5 years this May for my first live marathon. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot, right, for the body, and not everyone would be able to tolerate like as many marathons as you've done. So clearly, genetically speaking, you probably have some things going on your side, like you were a runner earlier in life, right? So there's that, and then you had this time period away where you kind of saved your body, right? If you want to call it that, where you weren't racing a lot, you weren't, doing high mileage, things like that. So you're able to kind of tolerate this training in a smart way. But the other thing that you mentioned that I really love and want to reinforce is how you don't ignore things. And it sounds like, to me at least, I didn't get the impression that you're a type person that like totally freaks out either. Like you mentioned going to the PT, even if your pain was at a 0 out of 10 that day, you were being proactive and saying like, hey, I'm not going to ignore this because I want to make sure that it doesn't get worse. And I'm sure that PT gave you some good exercise that your body needed for like that time in your training journey. And I'm sure you implemented them. So as opposed to like ignoring, or sometimes I see the reverse and like people freak out and it's like, oh my goodness, my Achilles is hurting. Like, let me just stop running for 2 weeks. It sounds like you did the right thing in, having a smart and sound approach to be able to keep training, but then also not ignore these little niggles or aches and pains that we get and are like, okay, now I got to maybe double down on, my Achilles strength a little bit more. Maybe I've been ignoring it a little bit as my mileage has been creeping up or as I've been doing these harder, speed sessions. So I love the fact that those are the things, and those are like the hard things to almost explain to people, and that it wasn't some fancy gadget. It wasn't like one particular strength exercise that you swear by that keeps you healthy, or it wasn't, one specific type of training regimen and, training philosophy that like kept you healthy. It, it, if I had to sum it up there, I would just say like you were listening to your body, you were training smart, you were taking care of things before they became worse down the road, and you were doing it consistently. and you were keeping your body in like this consistent fitness level that you had. And I know I mentioned earlier that you're also a full-time attorney and board member at the Hartford Track Club. And for runners listening who say like, I just don't have the time. Like, how do you realistically make marathon training fit into a busy life?
Yeah, so it's hard, right? I mean, it takes some planning and it takes really, I mean, I think the number one thing for me is that you have to love it, right? So people say, "Oh, I could never train for a marathon." Like you could if you loved it, right? But then if you don't love it, then you probably shouldn't anyway, right? So, I mean, I think that I am the happiest when I am outside running. Like I am my happiest. So for me, it's something that I want to be doing, right? And I'll say, like right now, where we're recording today, we're 7 weeks out from Boston, and I was joking with you that it's no man's land, right? You're in this time right now where you're so far out, it's hard to like see that it's coming, but you're also so far. I mean, you're so close that you can't be skipping stuff, and that's always hard, right? That's when kind of the consistency and the and leaning on your habits is important. But I think for me, because it's when I am the happiest, and I've built in some good ways to fool myself. Luckily, I'm really easy to trick, right? So if I plan to meet someone, then I have to go, right? So even if I do that before bed, like, hey, do you want to meet in the morning? Well, now I'm stuck, right? I've tricked myself into that. And, I've tricked myself to know that if I just get my legs over the side of the bed to get out of bed, I'll be able to get on the run, right? So I just have to do that one thing. So I think that for me, it's been a matter of um, prioritizing, but for some, but it's not even as much that I love doing it. And I love being outside and I love being with the people that I run with. I found the most amazing community. So it's what I want to be doing. And I do think that anybody that wanted to do it could do it. I just think that a lot of people don't want to, and that's fine. Do something else, play pickleball, right? If that's what you want to do. But I think if you want to run a marathon, you can run a marathon.
Yeah. So just having that strong why is what I'm hearing. And, if you're passionate about it, you will find a way to do it. You'll find a way to plan. You'll find a way to get up for those early runs, even if it's in the dark or even if it's in, 19-degree weather. You'll find a way to protect the long runs, right, and prioritize them in your training. But I'm sure you've had to find times where you've embraced flexibility, right? Like over perfectionism and having the perfect plan and just being able to have some grace with yourself, right? And be flexible if you're juggling, work projects and things like that. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I move things around on my calendar all the time. I'm sure, I'm always saying, well, this would be a better rest day this week for me than that. Or this will be a better day for me to fit in an extra strength than that, right? Or moving my long run around in the week. So I mean, there is that flexibility. And again, I'm not a professional runner, right? This isn't my job. This is something that I do because I like. So, you find the ways to make it fit in to you. And if you miss a run, you miss a run, right? I mean, again, it's not the end of the world. So, yeah, there's definitely flexibility.
Yeah. And what advantages do you think masters runners actually have that younger runners don't?
So I definitely think perspective is huge, right? And there's, you understand kind of the importance of things. You understand the importance of your health where maybe you haven't before. You've seen things going down around you with other people, and you realize kind of, how fortunate you are. Hopefully, you realize how fortunate you are. I personally, not and I know this isn't the case for everybody, I have time. Like I am now focused. This is the most selfish time in my life, right? I'm the youngest of six kids. No one ever asked me what I wanted. I immediately got out of college, went to law school, and then I had two children of my own. Again, no one ever asked me what I wanted. My kids are off, really, they're off doing their own thing, and it was like in that whole time when I was figuring out what I wanted, I didn't even know what I wanted on my pizza, right? If I would go out by myself for pizza, I didn't know what to order because I had never made those choices. Everybody in my older siblings had, my kids had, and so now I have this time for me to focus on myself and figure out what I want. So that to me is like a super cool chapter of my life to be able to do that. So I think that's a huge advantage, right? Um, I think for me, when my kids were growing up, my friends were their friends' parents. And I know you are probably
Right.
similar. I know
Right.
your girls are very involved in sports, and you probably like their friends' parents are your friends. That's what you do. But now I'm at a point where I need to kind of find my own friends for the first
Hmm.
time in a long time. And running's given me that too, right? I feel like I'm on a team again for the first time in a really long time. So I think that there's a lot of advantages, and again, speaking for myself, we now have a little more disposable income than we did when we were in our 20s and 30s to be able to go to the race that I want to go to, right? To
Right.
be able to buy the shoes that I want to buy, which I did not have that flexibility before. So it's just a really amazing time to figure out who I am and where I want myself to go because it's really, I'm my responsibility now, where I used to have all these other people that were my responsibility. So it's fun. It's a little scary, but I've been figuring it out, and it's really a really fun new chapter.
Right. It is. It definitely is. And those are all great advantages that you mentioned. And I can think of one other one that I'm finding in myself in my, I guess, mid to late 40s. Do I even say late 40s? But it is that long term thinking, right? Like I'm not thinking, okay, I got this marathon, goal this spring. I got this one next fall, and I have to like hit a specific time. And if I don't hit this PR, it's going to be like, devastating. Like I got long term thinking. Like I'm gonna be doing this for a while. I know, like you said, I'm very passionate about running. It is my freedom. It's my mental clearing miles. I'm gonna be doing it anyway for like the next, hopefully, like knock on wood, right? The next like 4 decades, I'm gonna be doing it. So I have that like long term vision and thinking where it's not like make or break. It's like hopefully I'm going to continue to improve. Like that's the goal is to continue to improve my journey, but it's not all about kind of short term. And in the beginning of my running journey, it was like, this is the race. This is what I need to do. And you just look at that one goal in front of you in that race. I guess, I think as we, grow wiser in our running journey, we have that more like long-term thinking, which I think helps as well. And I think helps keep you healthy because you don't overtrain and kind of burn the candle at all the ends. Yeah, I would love to actually pick your brain a little bit if you don't mind, and for you to share just some like training tips or like three training adjustments that runners in their 40s, 50s, should consider. Like what would those be? What would you say are like most important for those
Yeah,
folks?
I mean, I think I would say they all. I would say priorities are the like prioritizing things is the biggest training tip, I think, right? So I mean, you really need to be, or I needed to be prioritizing my own health, right, as opposed to, um, just kind of going along with what everyone else around me needed. So I would think that's a really huge one, and I see some of the younger women that I run with now that have young kids, and they are out doing, getting their own priorities and taking care of themselves more than I did. I did not have a great healthy balance. So I think, prioritizing yourself will make it so you do know what you like on your pizza before you turn 50 years old, right? So and which I think is huge. And then, I think the consistency is big, but I really think the number one training tip that I could ever tell anyone is to find the thing you like. I see all these people trying to do things they don't like, and they say, oh, I need to go to the gym, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. And they don't stay consistent, right? Because they don't like what they're doing. They haven't found the thing they like. And then the other thing is I've always been someone that bites off small bits, right? So if I'm going to strength train, I'm going to do very little today, and I'll do a little more tomorrow and a little more the next day. But I think when people say, I'm going to become a runner and I want to run a marathon, I think that's kind of a recipe for disaster when you just start out, right? I think you need to give yourself time. You need to let your body adjust to the changes that you're giving it and the load that you're putting on it. So I would say that, listening to your body, giving yourself time, finding the things that you like, that are going to be things that are going to be lifelong for you. I mean, I wish I loved to swim. I wish I loved to swim, but I do not.
Neither do I.
So that would be great, but I don't. So that's not going to be what I'm going to put all my focus on, swimming, because I would be unhappy. And then I think prioritizing yourself and your own fitness and your own mental health. I think that some of those things I could have listened to more when I was that age.
Yeah, those are all great tips. And yeah, I love all of those. I can't even, think about, I'm trying to think if there's anything that I would add to that. With the exception of, obviously I would kind of almost like default to our 6 steps to growing as a runner, and doubling down on recovery and doubling down on proper nutrition to fuel your runs, which I think a lot of runners may forget about initially, or strength training, right, to keep you healthy. But I love everything that you shared there. And you've said running became the happiest part of your life after 50. What changed internally that allowed you to experience joy instead of the stress?
I think the fact that I really just there's nothing to be stressed about, right? There's nothing riding on this. I remember I was running a marathon on Martha's Vineyard, um, and I was trying to decide. I was torturing myself over this decision whether I should go out with which pace group I should go out with, right? And I was so torturing myself about this. If I go out with this one, it'll be too fast. If I go out with this one, it'll be too slow. What will I do? And all of a sudden I was like, what am I doing? Who cares? Right? Let's go out with the fast one and see what happens. If I crash and burn, guess what? My family's not going to go hungry, and I'm still going to be okay. It'll be fine. But it took a little while. And then there was one time I was running, and I was in the United Airlines half in New York. And I went into it hoping to qualify for New York. That's why I was there. And, I get out and we're starting to run, and I'm feeling really stressed, and I'm all caught up in this idea of am I going to be able to qualify? And it didn't feel like I was, right? It's not the day. It's not the day. Colleen, it's not the day, right? I'm saying to myself. And I look over off the bridge, and there's the Statue of Liberty. I'm running through New York City on this gorgeous April day at 52 years old, looking at the Statue of Liberty, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Just be here. And then I did qualify. So it all worked. It all did work out. But it's a little bit I had to realize there's really no pressure. There's nothing at risk. There's nothing at stake. It's just for me. And if I'm not having fun, I can stop, right? So it really kind of just changed that whole thing. And no one's going to judge me. No one even knows what it means to run a time in a marathon. Is that good? No one knows. Who cares? So I had to kind of realize that none of it really matters to anyone but me. And if I'm not having fun while I'm out there, there's really not a whole lot of purpose to it for me.
Right. So really just running for yourself and having gratitude for being able to do it. Right. And yeah, not requiring any approval from anyone else in what times that you're you're working toward. I love it. And if someone was listening who's, maybe 48 or 52 and wondering like if they've missed their window, like what would you say to them?
Yeah, never. I mean, in the community that I most often run with on the weekends, I mean, there are people in their 20s, there are people in their 70s, and we're all out there doing it. And most of us are running 1 or 2 marathons a year. So it's definitely, if it's something that you're interested in, I mean, go out and see. I mean, I approached it really with the whole no goals mentality. I was just going to see what happened. And I never had ever wanted to run a marathon. It was never even on my list of things that I was interested in. And there I was. And then I don't know if I ever even shared this with you, but I had been following you on social media years ago. And then I saw I had run the Cheshire Half. I don't even know what year it was, like 2021,
Okay.
maybe.
The one in July
And
where it was rescheduled?
yeah,
Yeah.
it was really hot.
I remember
Yes,
that one.
yes, yeah.
It was really
And
hot.
I remember, yeah, it was really hot. And I remember seeing you out there, and I remember chatting with you afterwards, like saying, "Hi, I follow you on Facebook or whatever." And after that race, somebody said to me, "What was your time?" And I told them, they're like, "You could probably Boston qualify, you know." And I was like, "Huh?" Like I had never even thought about it, but it just kind of happened because I was showing up and seeing how things, were going and having fun. And, so somebody planted that seed, you might be able to do that if you can, keep up that pace or whatever. So I think that you don't know where the journey is going to take you. If you're interested, go and take the first couple of steps. It's just running, right? It's just putting one foot in front of the other. It's super easy. See how it goes, and give it a chance because it could, could change your life.
I love that advice. Be curious, right? Like just see what happens, and you never know, right? What could happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, you've run 6 world majors. You did like what did chasing big goals teach you about aging and performance?
So I will say that at the majors, I treat them as sightseeing tours. And I think I've told you that before. So
Mm-hmm.
when I'm at a major, I'm really only there for the experience. But as far as chasing them and chasing, like, specifically the Boston qualifier, because I would like to do Boston every year for the rest of my life. To me, it's magic. So it taught me to walk the line because for me to PR, for me to get a Boston qualifying time, for me to do those things, that's a lot of work, right? And I have to be careful that it doesn't become so much work that it feels like my job and not feel and make sure it still feels fun. So I'm always walking that line because I want a PR in the fall, right? And I'm not supposed to be PRing anymore at 55, right? I'm supposed to be going the other way down the bell-shaped curve. But I want to, have one really great fall race every year. But at the same time, I don't want this to become something that I burn out on. So you have to find that balance between, what are your goals and what are your priorities? And that's why I really only try to race maybe once a year. The rest of them I take is the sightseeing tours, right? I did the 6 majors. I ran this amazing marathon in the middle of the night during the Olympics in Paris. And
Yes, I
and
heard
and
about that
again,
race.
total sightseeing tour, right? I stopped and gave my camera to someone in the crowd to get a picture of me at the Eiffel Tower. Like, I mean, total
Right.
just there for the amazingness of it. But you really have to, I find, balance when you want to have a goal, keeping in perspective why do you have the goal? What are you getting out of it, right? And making sure that you're still enjoying the ride because otherwise you're going to burn out.
Yeah, no, that's very, very inspirational. Thank you for sharing that. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, like, what do you actually like on your pizza?
So it turns out I like a plain pizza. I'm a cheese pizza girl. Sometimes I will get double cheese. But I do, the veggies I find make it too soggy. The meats make it too meaty. I'm turned out to be, truth be told, I turned out to be a plain pizza girl.
Classic.
I just like the cheese. Yeah, classic.
I like it.
A more thin crust, but I will double the cheese if there's been a big workout maybe during the week. I'll have double cheese on my pizza.
All right. I had to ask, since you do live in Connecticut, the pizza capital of the world, and I could say that because I used to be a New Yorker, so I must say I do like New Haven pizza better than New York. Sorry if I just offended anyone listening out there. Hopefully you guys have tried New Haven pizza before. So Colleen, I just want to say thank you for sharing your story today. Yeah. I know there are many runners listening right now who are in that exact season that you described. And, maybe they're approaching 50, maybe their kids are leaving home, maybe they're wondering if their best running days are behind them. And what I hope you hear from Colleen's story is this, guys: your strongest chapter might still be ahead of you. And if you're listening and thinking, I want that, I want to run strong, I want to run and stay healthy, I want structure, I want someone in my corner who understands real life, a full-time job, family responsibilities. This is exactly why we built our one-on-one Healthy Runner coaching program. Colleen is just not someone who talks about running after 50. She's lived it. She's built durability. She's balanced career and training. She's run 22 marathons and 6 world majors, and she's stayed healthy. And now she's helping other runners do the same. So I'm excited. I'm super excited to have her a part of our team. So if you want personalized guidance, a smart strength and run plan, accountability, and a coach who just understands, masters runners inside and out, head to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/coaching. I'll also drop the link within the show notes to apply to work with our team. We'd love to help you build your strongest, healthiest miles yet. Your age is not your limitation. Your plan might be. So let's fix that. So now I want to know, after listening to this, let us know how old you are right now if you're watching the video version of this, and what your next running goal is. Drop it in the comments. I do read all of the comments. And if you found this helpful, hit the like button, subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes where we can help you train smarter, stay healthy, and keep chasing big goals. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day, Colleen, to share this with our Healthy Runner community.
Super fun. Thanks.
It has been fun. Now, if you are feeling inspired that your best running years may still be ahead of you, learn how to get stronger strides with 3 game-changing strength tips for marathon training. If you're listening to the podcast, then just queue up episode 273 on the Healthy Runner podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, just click the video that I have for you next. Now let's continue to grow a strong mind, a strong body, and just keep running, friends. Until next time.